Hey guys, I challenge you to find a better combo than this.
You'll help me if I fall into a trap, right?
So, is that what's coming up in our refines today? Well, let's find out, shall we? Hey guys, welcome to a brand new video featuring the weapon refines of August 2020. So, some of these are long overdue, and I mean really long overdue. Shiro especially, and Setsuna. I'm glad we're getting these like monthly GHB refines at last. So a lot of them are pretty cool. I mean, I've been a big fan of them. Ursula's really was cool, for example. Now we have Legion also rounding it out. Narcian was, well, he's got like healing. So like, you know, GHBs are finally getting some attention, and that's pretty awesome. Along with this video, I'm gonna basically give my thoughts on the rest. Cecilia has her own video, so check out yesterday's video if you want to see my thoughts on Cecilia on a more extensive analysis. This video is just mostly my thoughts on the other three, and they are definitely worth talking about. Just not as much detail, but generally speaking, that's what you can look forward to here. So, let's look at the refines first, and then I'll give you guys some sample builds to get your cogs in your head going as to where and what you can do with these. Of course, we'll take a look at the Fire Emblem Heroes meta, as I normally do, and consider them there in their best case scenarios. So, first off is Shiro, coming in with a pretty good refine, actually. In my opinion, Lance infantries are pretty lacking. You got like Lucas, Obro, and like Donnie, and honestly, they all don't really compare to this refine. Like, Obros, for example, is really old and outdated, and you can't really do much with Obro. Like, this blows it out of the water, for example. But the thing that's really awesome about this is actually a good refine on even a fairly low merge Shiro. So I'm actually fairly impressed with this. Tons of stats, like attack and defense, which he can definitely use pretty well. And you pretty much only have to buff up his res, possibly his speed a little bit to make him work. Almost like a perfect candidate for light season. We'll talk about that in a moment. But neutralizing penalties is awesome, and even at low merge, Shiro does it well. The only problem with this refine is literally that we got female Akariss recently. And even a low merge female Akariss likely outperforms a low merge Shiro. So this only really works for you guys who don't have female Akariss or don't have, like if you... I guess you basically need like a mid-merge Shiro to really outperform Akariss. Next up is Legion's Refine. This is also very interesting. It has potential. I didn't list the actual bonus refine to it, but it's basically a bunch of stats and like a blade effect with condition on HP, extra attack speed, and the blade effect. So anyways, talking about the base effect, because that's the important part to talk about here, is the fact that Legion's weapon is essentially like a reverse Chaos Ragnall. And for you guys who don't know, Chaos Ragnall was like, if I'm debuffed, well, just double up on those stats. So what this does is like, if someone fights against Legion and they are buffed, then he gets bonus stats to kind of like trump that. So it's kind of cool because first of all, you don't want lulls, or you don't want to necessarily panic your opponent. You want Legion to go into a buffed enemy and like trash them, and then after he's done fighting, he panics them. So that's like kind of cool. He definitely has some interesting places where he can be, and I think players fighting into a Legion or using Legion will definitely make use of this good refine. Very good refine. So again, wait for it. I do have some things in mind to make use of that. Finally, we have Setsuna's Yumi. Setsuna's Yumi, again, I honestly thought with so many good bow refines and just them having almost every variation of a bow refine, this one ended up being fairly good and making her stand out as well. So the thing with this is it's not a full nullification of penalties. Like, it doesn't nullify defense and res, it's only attack and speed, and it has a bonus. A bonus must be active for the condition to be there. Now, the bonus isn't as hard as you might think, especially if you're like, oh, she got panicked, therefore she doesn't have a bonus. This is true. If the only thing you have is visible buffs and she gets panicked, she actually doesn't neutralize the penalties. But if you do get panicked and you have, let's say, like a Divine Fang buff on or a Ground Orders buff, then technically she neutralizes the penalties and gets the attack and speed. The thing is, panic removes visible buffs anyways, but you still get the extra attack and speed. So it's actually not that difficult of a condition to meet if you think about it. Additionally, she gets the conditional 4 to all stats as long as she fights like ranged weapons. And in AR, this is actually pretty common. You mostly run into full range teams, like heavy range, so that condition is pretty easy to accomplish. A very good bow. The thing that it doesn't nullify defensive stats might seem like kind of like oof, but the thing is her defense and res are pretty low, so you can easily have like either Mila or Altina, let's say an AR offense, to take the dark shrines from your opponents, to soak the chills, so to speak. Chill defense, chill res, or dark shrines won't really hit Setsuna, so the only way you'll get her into a place where she'll get hit by like debuffs in her defense and res is like dagger debuffs. And you know, it's okay. You can probably end up sniping those units, or she can make do without it. We'll talk about that again in a moment. So, moving on, I will put the refines under me here if you do and I need a reminder, but I'm going to jump into the builds now. So starting off with Shiro. Now, like I mentioned earlier, if you have female Akariss, she likely outperforms Shiro, but if you have like a low, maybe like a +1 at the minimum, but definitely at higher merge, if he's been like a pity breaker or such, he's actually pretty good for light season with this new refine. He gets like the perfect buffs from Peony and Air. Peony gives him speed, Flower of Joy gives you additional speed, Air gives you res, so these are all very desirable stats. You basically give him this encounter, no follow-up, and speed res solo, and this guy would like, he would just like trash through most teams in light season. You can apply this to most like units in light season, but he does this actually fairly well and is pretty good as an option if you already invested into him, or you were considering for whatever reason to use like a blue tank. The fact that he negates penalties is huge, and his stat spread is really nice for this. He'll get a lot of nice one-shots. He'll has a pretty good stat spread overall. So this is like the ideal place for Shiro, I imagine. Moving on though, let's talk about Legion. So Legion's in a good spot, I'd say, for water season. Being a green is like an awesome option for water season right now, considering Legendary Chrom is a unit. You got Leaf and Azura and such in water season, and Fjorm as well, technically. So this is like the ideal Legion. Now, there's some variations here, but I feel like this is ideal. He does need G-Dual Infantry and probably Times Pulse to really shine here. Now, you run into plenty of buffed units in Arena, and unless you're running Panic in some form, Sudden Panic or Panic Ploy, and he provides the panic through his weapon post-combat. But essentially, if you're not running Panic Ploy or Sudden Panic, then he's really good because you almost always run into like units that have rallies or buffs in some way, so Sneering Axe will get some amazing value. By running Times Pulse, he actually has like a built-in kind of Gale Force on most full health units. He'll be at 4 charge from Times Pulse, and then the Sneering Axe's Refine effect gives him so much attack and speed that he will get Gale Forces pretty much off of anything. And he has actually good matchups against units like Chrom and Azura and Leaf even. But you got a player phase most of these units, but you can take a hit from like Chrom, and Chrom's like, I negate penalties, and Legion's like, that's fine, I'll just double up my stats and go and kill you. So he's a good consideration for that. Beast-Lot and Seals are definitely interchangeable here if you need some sort of support stuff, but essentially this guy is pretty solid as an arena unit now, and I would recommend him if you like him, I guess. He's a good option for greens. Moving on, the second place that I feel he's really good in now is likely Aether Raid's defense. Now, people play into Aether Raids with buffs, so a good option is actually just throw Legion on the front line as a unit. But on Dark Season, probably not on Anima, because he doesn't have the best situation against Altina. Altina definitely can give him some problems. So run this guy as a frontliner and take advantage of his really high speed and really high HP. Those two things means he's great as a frontliner with like Infantry Pulse, Phantom Speed Seal, and like Repel. The dude reaches easily into 60 speed, possibly even more, depending on what your comp's running. And this guy, he will like reduce damage like crazy through stuff like Repel. It could be Close Call as well, or Spurn even. Those are all alternative options. But essentially this guy frontline will be really difficult to kill. Watch out for bolt towers. That's like the biggest problem. If your team comp is like maybe more of a corner comp, then he probably won't get hit by it as long as your catapult tries to snipe problem bolt towers, because that's going to be the big issue. Bolt towers will give him a lot of trouble. So moving on from this, I'm going to be removing Legion for now, and I'm going to talk about specifically Setsuna. Setsuna is an interesting unit to talk about here because she is easily compared to Norn. At least now I feel like she's really easily compared to Norn. So if you don't have enough copies of Norn, which is not unrealistic, she recently got demoted 3 and 4 star, and as a 4 star she was pretty difficult to catch up. I'd say most people probably have tons of Setsuna copies. And Setsuna is now very comparable to Norn, especially if you don't have Spendthrift. Spendthrift will give Norn essentially the advantage when it comes to tanking, but Setsuna is a very competitive option. What I want to point out here is that most defense comps on AR offense are mostly ranged. So this means that Setsuna will activate like a 4 to all stats, and her offensive spread is actually really solid. It ends up being like 65 attack here and 54 speed, I believe, without even considering any skills. No solos, no buffs, nothing. This is only just with the mythics. Now the thing is, Setsuna likely wants to be only on Astra because Astra has Divine Fang and that activates her Yumi. An opening skill is also a really good idea to get that buff flowing even on follow-up turns. So that's how I would use Setsuna. Norn can be more standalone, but she's definitely more weak to stuff like Dark Shrine and even Bright Shrine to an extent. Remember that Setsuna removes penalties on Bright Shrine, so it makes team compositions easier to build around her. You can pretty much like stack her attack and speed easily, not worry about Bright Shrines, not worrying about another unit trying to take those debuffs off her from Bright Shrines or chill attacks or chill speeds. Norn is susceptible to that, unfortunately, and Norn's higher defense and res also makes her susceptible to Dark Shrine, harder to deal with. Setsuna has like Altina that could easily take both defense and res debuffs off of her just from having naturally higher bulk. So Setsuna is a really good option, I would say, for people who are thinking of like a bow tank now. Once you throw in, of course, the solos and such, that's where things get really interesting. Remember, Setsuna's already at like 50 plus speed without even using a solo. Right now we have speed res solo, so you throw that in there and it's like almost 62 speed. So you patch up her other stats. Attack res solo 4 or attack defense solo 4 are super solid. Close foil could also be a consideration, or close counter, although I feel like since she's mostly meant to be a ranged tank, you should focus on her not necessarily having to retaliate against units that are melee. You should either try to snipe those melee units, or you should have a different composition like a Vantage Sweeper to take care of that. So Setsuna, once you throw in some solos, looks really good. Norn is still very good as a standalone and doesn't have to rely on these whole like range matchups. She definitely, like Norn can definitely tank melee units better, but they both would likely suffer from a similar problem, and Norn is more premium for now. Setsuna's cool, definitely would recommend to give a shot if you're looking for a bow archer tank right now. Finally, I do want to mention a secondary kind of thing for Setsuna, which is an arena build. Okay, so with the arena build, the thing is, and especially in Earth, is you got Alm all over the place. Alm is like almost everywhere, and having units that can beat Alm consistently makes your arena seasons much better. Alm can be found with like sturdy impact, lulls, he can be found with his base kit and such, and he's really, really offensively fast and really threatening. The thing with Setsuna is she's also super fast. So if you deny Alm's double, he's much less threatening. He's so much easier to deal with. So a build like this on Setsuna is actually very good for dealing with Alm. You might not even need null follow-up. Sorcery Blade I would recommend though if you have a mage on your team though, because then she will shred through Alm's low res. Like she will be able to near kill him. If you have like drives or panic on him, he's absolutely dead. But the thing is, Setsuna is super fast and competitive with Alm's speed, making her a very good viable option for an Earth core. Not many units can do this because Alm is really annoying. He pierces through defense, and Setsuna doesn't have that much defense for him to get his bonus damage off of Luna Arc or Lunar Flash. Setsuna competes with him both on player and enemy phase, making her a very good option for something like Earth Season if you have her built or we're thinking of throwing Sea Duel infantry around. So I'd say Setsuna's super cool. I'd say more consistent, far more consistent, one of the best 3 or 4 star bows right now, definitely on par with something like Norn, and Legion has its place now too. An interesting refine nonetheless, and Shiro is now usable, but not necessarily standing out in any way. So that pretty much sums up my thoughts on this month's refines. If you like these units or had them invested, now they're really cool to use, and you should probably be happy about that. Personally, I'm a fan of Cecilia, so check out yesterday's video if you're wondering what I thought about that. With that being said, I hope you liked this video. As always, with all my analysis, feel free to leave your thoughts below on any of these units or different ways that you think you could have used them in. Finally, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Join the Twitch for more discussions, questions, and the Discord. Thank you guys. See you in the next one. Peace.